Hello, I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley.
And I'm her daughter, Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Heidi and I want to welcome you to Open to Hope Conversations, the podcast.
We believe that the greatest gift you can give yourself after a loss is hope, using this moment to connect with others who have not only survived but thrived.
So let's get started. Welcome to the Open to Hope show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, Heidi, we are going to talk about a really important topic today. We're going to talk about grieving a death due to substance-related causes. Really, we know there are a lot of people, particularly now, who've had those kind of problems.
Absolutely, Mom. It is a real crisis in this country, and it's a growing crisis. And I'm looking forward to talking to Leslie Lagos today because her brother died from a substance-related cause. So we'll be talking to her about what she's done to make meaning out of this loss and what she's doing right now to help other people. We will be talking about grieving a death due to substance-related causes. And our guest today is Leslie Lagos. She is the director of the Sun Will Rise Foundation, which holds 32 monthly peer grief support groups for those over 18, grieving the death of someone who has died to substance-related causes. Leslie is a peer grief ally for SADOD, which stands for Support After a Death by Overdose.
And Lord and our friend Franklin Cook, we've known them for many years and do wonderful work in the field of grief and loss and recovery.
Absolutely. So for those listening, please go to the SADOD website and check out what they're doing. And Leslie co-facilitates Massachusetts River Training for SADOD and the Sun Will Rise Foundation. Leslie founded the Timothy Patrick Morrissey Memorial Fund in honor of her brother Timmy, who died from an overdose in 2013. Welcome to the show, Leslie.
Thank you so much. So nice to be with both of you.
We know how you got into the field of grief and recovery after your brother died 11 years ago, but in just looking at your bio a little bit, you are also recovered from substance abuse. And you really walk the walk and talk the talk. You have the loss piece, and you also have been there yourself. So what a full bag of help. I don't know what else to call it. I don't want to call it tricks, a full bag of help you've got in understanding both sides of the issue.
Yeah, gift of sobriety. I actually just this past week, at the end of the day, I kind of go through a gratitude list for myself. And, my life is really full today and wonderful. And I'm able to show up for it. And that's the gift. By the time I was 25, I was in a place where I wasn't able to show up for my life. I was living in the basement of my mom's house, and I couldn't open my mail or answer the phone or go to work. And I had people in my life that I loved quite a bit. I had a wonderful job, and I had friends, and I had family. And so I actually had somebody enter my life that introduced me to a 12-step program, and it changed my life at that point. So I was able to make a change, and it took a lot. And I was able to.
And you worked with your mother and sister at that time to develop a program, right?
Yeah, so I was part of a wonderful nonprofit. I've worked in nonprofits all my life, and it was to help people unemployed and economically disadvantaged to be able to gain some self-esteem and skills to re-enter the workforce. So it was a lot of people that were raising children that needed a hand, needed a place to feel good about themselves. And that's what, again, at that point, I had a mentor in my life. She started that organization. She was a high school teacher of mine. And she's the one that kind of gave me that glimmer of hope. She gave me this little plaque about positivity. And not that, I credit my mom tremendously for raising us four to be extremely close. Yet there was still a lot of, not a lot of hope.
And you're seeing your brother deteriorate. That must have been really tough. Because we want to help those closest to us, and you've been able to help yourself. And how do you get the message?
You bring me right back. He did come along for a little bit. And, at that point in my life, I was still fairly young. And I thought, I know exactly who he should sit with and who he should be friends with and who's going to help him. And, he was this carefree, fun loving, genuinely just this personality that you just were endeared to. And he was funny as all heck. So yeah, he was struggling. He had started with, in my family, everybody kind of dabbled in everything, basically, those teenage years. And he got a football injury, and he had a lot of ailments. He had a lot of physical pain, and that took him down. That really took him down. And in the end, for him, he felt that he had something that people just couldn't figure out. He had done doctors, he had done programs, and he kind of, came in and out, but he did not feel like it was for him.
We have so many people who are so heartbroken because they tell us that their loved one was doing better,
Mhm.
and then suddenly they're gone and they didn't have any inkling because they thought it was on the up road. And how did he pass then?
So it was actually Thanksgiving, 11 years ago, as you mentioned, and we know Thanksgiving doesn't always fall on the day, but this year it's November 28th, which is the actual day.
Wow.
Yeah, he had, we found him, and he had overdosed.
Did he leave any notes, or did maybe he not know, or did you know anything about what was happening, or not really?
It's very confusing,
Yeah.
there were abusive results from the report. My mom is someone that just believes he never would do that. He told her he would never do that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yet he did. He had a beautiful cat that he loved, and
Mhm.
the cat away. And there were just different signs for me.
Oh, he gave his cat away. Yeah.
That
Yeah, that's really interesting because people struggle with what their belief is. I know some family members feel that they overdosed, some purposefully, some people feel that it was an accident. I mean, there's just how do you deal, and how do you deal now with the never knowing?
we do a grief conference with SADOD, and the Sun Rise is a part of it. And I was invited to be on a panel for people that have lost their loved one, to a substance related cause, and either knew the person died by suicide or had a thought that they may have. So I was grateful to be part of that. And I will tell you, if my mom watches this, it's going to be really hard because she does not want to think that or believe it. And I do not force that on her at all.
Right.
That's what she believes. And I have my own, thoughts. I know he said to me, I think you'll be okay. And again, I think having recovery, he felt that with me, and he could talk to me in a way that he couldn't talk to other people. My sister, my brother had left. He was in the Air Force and really never returned. So he was in a house full of women, and my mom was definitely someone that, he knew would have a hard time with it. So he would tell her that, but he said to me, he thought about it all the time. He thought about it all the time. We were all together on Thanksgiving, my mother, my sister, our 7 children, our husbands. My brother lives away, and I don't know, I just felt like he knew we'd all be here together to comfort each other. And
Wow.
that's what we did. And so I, really put a lot of emphasis. I had 4 young children that knew their uncle, that loved him, that hadn't experienced death. I had the support of my husband, who many times tried to help my brother.
Well, I'm wondering, Leslie, why do you think that deaths related to substances are so stigmatized?
Yeah. I mean, I talk to people daily, and it's really challenging. We have come away even since 11 years ago, but we have so much further to go. And people have a hard time grieving. They have a hard time talking to people about it because they feel judged. I just was on training, and someone was saying, I had my in-laws, my husband died. I had my in-laws blaming me. And, did you do enough? And, there's just so much that's not understood, so much that's not understood, that it is, a disease, that people feel like it's a choice. And,
Mhm.
you know, the things that people say, we could all write 10 books.
What do I need to say when there's a substance related?
I like that, Mom.
That's a great question.
Mhm.
Our river training is supporting those who want to be peer grief helpers and, you know, put their hand out for somebody else that's gone through, we can't say the exact same thing because everyone's going through a different experience, but has had a similar loss. And really, you know, and if I think about it and you think about it, what do we really want? We want to be understood. We want to be heard. We want to be seen, and we don't want to be judged, right? So
Mhm.
river training itself, you know, relating, inviting, validating, empowering, reassuring. And I had people in my life, you know, when Timmy died that I could talk to. You know, I had a sponsor that showed up that day and sat with me, and I was numb. It was so numb, but she just sat with me. And, you know, there's that other thing that people give you that look, that like sympathy look. I didn't want
Mhm.
that, you know, I just wanted to be, you know, I had another friend that I could just, he just, you know, sometimes people, you feel like you have to care for them.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you know, he was there for me and he knew my brother. And he just talked to me like, you know, let me just share. So that is the thing that makes a difference. And Franklin is someone, you know, I met Robyn and Robyn introduced me to Franklin. And it had been a number of years since I had lost Timmy. As I said, you know, I went through the
And Robyn's the one that started Sun Will Rise Foundation?
correct. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, Franklin, we were on a Zoom on a Sunday morning and he asked me my brother's name. And I sometimes
Mm.
say that without choking up because it meant the world that he asked me. And he didn't just ask me his name, he invited me to share more about him.
Mhm.
Wow.
And that's what's
And
happening.
for our listeners, Franklin is one of the founders of SADOD, Support After a Death by Overdose.
Right. So there's Franklin and as Gloria had mentioned, Glenn Lord and Tanya Lord. So they're the partners
Mhm.
of SADOD.
Mhm.
It's part of Peer Support Community Partners, and it's peer grief support resources and services. I coupled both my recovery background and, you know, passion with the fact that I did career services and found this organization called One Life at a Time that, you know, one day at a time, one life at a time. And we ended up, they were doing career services, but also, you know, the owner had family in her life that was struggling. And we started a program for people in recovery to help them to find gainful employment. It was very different from the beginning. You know, I used to do it way back and it was snail mail, like on paper, and, you know, how you did a resume is different. So it was giving people skills of how to
Mhm.
back out there. You know, people felt like they were living in sober homes and they were working in these jobs and they just didn't feel like they could get ahead, you know. So this was a great resource for people to do that. And while I was there, I met Robyn. So
I love what you've done, Leslie, with your loss. You know, you had a brother that died, and you've then gone on to help other people, you know, get their footing in life and helping them get on their feet and again, etc.
Yeah, making meaning out of it and trying to
Absolutely.
figure it out. Now, I'm thinking for myself, if I'm listening to this, and I've just had somebody who's overdosed in my family, and I'm struggling with some of those issues that you're talking about. I'm struggling with stigma, what to say, different family members believing they did different ways. A lot of people I know are waiting for autopsy reports that take months to toxology. I mean, does it really matter? And it does. And it's, you know, it's, and then now we're following trails of people who were suppliers. And what would you say to me if I'm in the midst of this hurricane? I mean, this tsunami, what would you say to me?
You know, what was said to me at one point that meant the world was, you know, Timmy's life had meaning and it had purpose. And that changed, you know, my perspective. It allowed me to say, wow, you know, I wasn't able to help him in the way that I would have liked to have helped him for him to be able to continue living his life. Yet he's taught me a ton about how to raise my children, you know, what I can do for people, what I'm not able to do for people. So I would invite people that are struggling with that to talk. to share, to come to a support group if they choose to. It's a lot of invitations. You know, what I love is that we have this ability to have people connect in the way that works for them. It could be coming to a support group and not talking. It could be joining an event that we have. It could be just getting the weekly newsletter and seeing what's out there and, you know, having resources such as yours, you know, to be able to watch a podcast and hear someone else tell your story. So that ability to connect and feel that, again, you're not alone. Grief is a lifelong journey.
Mhm.
And we're here to help, you know. It's about supporting somebody with heart. And the people I work with are amazing. The people I work with have all experienced a loss due to substance use, and they want to provide that support to someone else. There's so much out there that you just want people to find. So we don't work in a silo. We want to spread the word. The website for The Sun Will Rise is thesunwillrise.org. And Robyn, again, founded it when her son Nick had died to an accidental overdose at age 20.
Leslie, I love all the things you're doing, from virtual to in person, the peer support, which my mom and I are big proponents of peer support. All the research shows that the two things you need after traumatic losses are peer support and adaptive coping skills. And that you already know that, because that's how you've found hope again after your own loss of your brother, Timmy. So where can people find you? I mean, you've given us a few things. So they just Google the Sun Will Rise Foundation and SADOD. And if they want to join those groups, they'll see those on there.
100%. So the sunwillrise.org and SADOD.org, SADOD.org, and the Sun Will Rise are two resources that you'll see. We collaborate to, you know, our goal is to help more grieving people more effectively and with heart.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much for being on the show, Leslie. Really amazing. And I love the work you're doing. And I know the fabulous people that you're working with. So continue on the good work. And thank you. And I know that you're certainly doing it in Timmy's name.
Thank you
Absolutely, Leslie. I know that Timmy is your guiding light, and he continues to make a big difference in the world today. Thank you.
so
So Heidi
much.
and I want to thank everybody for joining us on this show today. And we want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own, and God bless.
I'm Dr. Heidi Horsley. You have been listening to Open to Hope, the podcast. You can follow Open to Hope on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To learn more, visit us at opentohope.com and go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe.
I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley. Join us again next week for another Open to Hope conversation, where we invite you to lean on our hope until you find your own.